If it's only security, security admin, or editor developers, we can give. This is web-based development workbench. So from here also they can do some development activities, and from here also we as administrators can create users, roles, all this. Security also they given there. Provided you're an authorized person, you can do that. This web ID, web-based development workbench. So if I go to security, so you can see that web-based development workbench, under that security you have users, roles. We can perform those, and even settings we can give. So if you want to access this security directly also, you can use this URL, SAP HANA IDE/security. Okay, so here when it comes to this port number 80, then instance number, that's a standard port, you need to remember. 80, then instance number. Here instance number is 00 only, that's why I'm just using this one. In case if it's a different instance number, you just change that number. Okay, so that's how you access the web IDE tool. Now, coming to the next one, the most important of all this, as far as administration is concerned, is HANA Cockpit. So, very significant tool. But I'll give you some brief history about this HANA Cockpit tool. Actually, this HANA Cockpit was not available in the beginning stages when actually SAP introduced this HANA Cockpit only from 1.0 SPS 09. Earlier to that, it was not there. So we used to totally rely on HANA Studio for performing administration activities. Then what actually SAP has done is 1.0 SPS 08. They've introduced something called monitoring dashboards. Monitoring dashboards are provided for memory, processor monitoring like that. And then based on that only, they've introduced HANA Cockpit as a web tool. Initially, that tool was introduced only for monitoring purpose, But slowly later on, once SAP has decided that they want to project this HANA Studio only for development environment or development activities, so they started providing those administration options also there in HANA Cockpit slowly. Not everything at once. So initially there was no administration activities, then they provided starting stopping mechanisms, then backup, then recovery. One by one they added. So in 1.0 version, very important things remember, in HANA 1.0 version means till SPS 12, introduced in SPS 9 till SPS 12. In 1.0, HANA Cockpit was part and parcel of your database server itself. Means when you install your database server, you do get HANA Cockpit also. No need to install it separately. It's part and parcel of your database server. Suppose I install database 1, it will have its own cockpit. If you install cockpit 2, database 2, it will have its own cockpit. Every database will have its own cockpit separately. 1.0 version. So you can launch it by using a URL. Otherwise, when you open HANA Cockpit, it will be open in the browser directly. But that is accessible and available only in 1.0. But here our database is 2.0. Let us see what happens when I'm trying to open it. See that information what it's giving. HANA Cockpit delivered with HANA 1.0 is no longer available. So instead of that, they're asking you to use Cockpit delivered with HANA 2.0. Now, when they are saying that use HANA Cockpit delivered with 2.0, what you need to remember is HANA Cockpit 2.0 is not part of database server. HANA Cockpit 2.0 is not part of your database server. SAP has separated this HANA Cockpit from your database server. So for HANA Cockpit 2.0, there is separate software given to you. HANA Cockpit 2.0 media is available. So you go to your SWDC, get that DVD, one DVD will be there, get it. And just like how we install database server, similarly you can install HANA Cockpit 2.0. But when you're speaking about installing HANA Cockpit 2.0, it can be installed on a Linux machine, a fresh Linux machine where there is nothing available, no database, nothing. So you need to install it only on Linux machine, but no need of having any database server there. Or if you are interested, you want to install on the host where already database server is running, there also you can install it. It's up to you. You can decide on that. So if you want to install it on a different machine, on a Linux machine, you don't need huge configurations there. A bare minimum of 32 GB RAM is good enough to run HANA Cockpit. So you need to install it separately. So meaning of that is HANA Cockpit 2.0 is not related to any one database. The reason why they did like that is they want to use HANA Cockpit as a centralized administration and monitoring tool. So they want to use HANA Cockpit 2.0 for administration of all the databases, monitoring of all the databases running in the company. All HANA databases, whatever you have in your landscape. That's actually the importance of HANA Cockpit 2.0. Earlier HANA Cockpit 1.0 is limited to one particular database. So at that time they tried with something called DBCC, Database Control Center, but not so successful in that. But now Cockpit 2.0 is highly successful, we can say. It's really good and you'll feel very comfortable to work with that environment. Web-based environment is actually based on the Fiori technology. You might be knowing that already people are using Fiori, SAP Fiori for the presentation part. Exactly the same thing is used in the Cockpit 2.0. And that too, as I explained you yesterday, you have XS and XS Advanced. Actually, HANA Cockpit 2.0 runs on XS Advanced, XS Engine Advanced runtime. That's a specialty of Cockpit 2.0. And this Cockpit 2.0, they enhanced a lot. Now, we'll work on that. Just let me show you. Actually, the database version we have is 2.0 SPS03, the latest one. But when it comes to Cockpit, see, this is a HANA XS Advanced. You know that SAP 1 support site, it looks same almost. So I'm already using that HANA Cockpit 2.8 SP8. 9 is also there. We have to upgrade this one. So they've done a lot of enhancements, improvements for this. So if someone worked on HANA Cockpit just maybe one and a half year back, and now you can see drastic changes there. But it's more simplified. It's more useful. and you can handle multiple databases centrally from one single location, both for administration as well as monitoring purpose. That's a specialty of HANA Cockpit. So install it separately on a different machine if you want, and you can start accessing it by using some URLs. Standard URL will be there, like as I shown you here, hostname colon 51028 for HANA Cockpit. But just like HANA Studio, when we opened this HANA Studio first time, what happened? There's no system there. What we did, we added the systems so that we can start working with them. Similarly, when we go to HANA Cockpit after installation is done first time, you don't find any databases. Those databases, we call them as resources. So you don't find any resource here as such. So first of all, those resources need to be added here. We call it as registering the resources. Those registering of the resources has to be done by using Cockpit Manager. And that Cockpit Manager we can access by using another URL. There's one more URL. Just only the port number is different. This is called Cockpit Manager. So where you'll be allowed to register your databases, which we call them as resources. And once that is done, registering of the resources, they will be accessible to you from this cockpit. And you can start performing administration and monitoring activities. Okay. So anyhow, in the next session, I'm going to show you how to work with the cockpit as we have seen the studio today. Similarly, we are going to look at this cockpit because we'll be working with more of cockpit rather than working with the studio. Even though a few activities we'll do in studio, but mostly we'll be working with HANA Cockpit. That's very important for you as an administrator. So I'll show you practically how to work with that cockpit in the coming session.